A global organization intends to provide its software development team with secure, compliant access to its AWS resources. The company currently utilizes an on-premises Active Directory for identity authentication and manages a multi-account environment via AWS Organizations. The firm requires a centralized identity management and access control solution that integrates seamlessly with its existing infrastructure. Which approach accomplishes this requirement with the minimum amount of operational maintenance?
The options are as follows. Option A, provision an AWS-managed Microsoft Active Directory, establish a trust with the local Active Directory, and assign IAM roles to local AD groups. Option B, generate individual IAM users for every developer, manually configure permissions per account, and enforce mandatory multi-factor authentication. Option C, implement an AD connector to bridge the local Active Directory with AWS IAM Identity Center, then utilize permission sets to grant AD groups access to specific AWS accounts. Option D, deploy an identity federation solution using Amazon Cognito, connect it to the local Active Directory, and issue tokens for developers to access AWS resources.
This scenario explores the challenge of managing identities across a distributed AWS environment while leveraging existing enterprise infrastructure. Essentially, the core task is to bridge a local directory service with cloud resources. When an organization already has a centralized identity source, like an on-premises Active Directory, the goal is to extend that source securely without creating redundant silos or adding significant management overhead. You need to consider which service architecture minimizes manual work. In my view, the correct answer is option C. Implementing an AD connector to bridge the local Active Directory with AWS IAM Identity Center is the most efficient choice here. AWS IAM Identity Center is the primary service for centralizing identity and access management across multiple AWS accounts. By using an AD connector, the organization can securely extend its on-premises directory to AWS without the complexity of synchronizing identities or managing additional domain infrastructure in the cloud. Looking at why the other options are less ideal, option A involves setting up and maintaining an AWS-managed Microsoft Active Directory just to facilitate a trust relationship, which adds unnecessary operational burden. Option B is highly inefficient for a global team, as manually managing individual IAM users across accounts is not scalable and is prone to human error. Finally, option D is incorrect because Amazon Cognito is specifically designed for authentication in customer-facing web and mobile applications, not for administrative AWS account access. When tackling these types of questions, keep an eye out for phrases mentioning minimum operational maintenance. Always favor native AWS services designed for centralized control, like IAM Identity Center, over manual configurations or services intended for different use cases, such as application-level authentication. Recognizing the specific purpose of each service, like distinguishing between administrative access and application user authentication, is a key tip for passing these certification exams.